Hello again, welcome back to the Jog 300 for WVU video series. We are now wrapping up this particular week's set of videos with looking at going back to the PACT idea and especially looking at some of the conventions when presenting the results of inferential statistics. The lab report's coming up. Now we are starting to work with tables and put those into our results section. And there are some particular issues with that. Now, there are basically two main guiding principles within the results section. The first one is to be distinct from a discussion section where we are just presenting the outcomes. We're just presenting the facts. The main thing is, at this point, there is no commentary. So we might say, in the introduction, again, and it kind of gets to the other part that I'll be putting up shortly. In the intro, we say, I carried out, to understand the effect of mask mandates, I carried out a paired t-test before and after with one tail because I want to see, did the implementation of a mask mandate reduce the COVID infection rate of a particular location? So because I'm specifying or saying it's before and after, I have justified that choice of a paired t-test by saying I want to see if it reduced the rates. I have justified that choice of one tail for my two-sample t-test. So I've gone and I have justified those choices. That's always important. Also, that says that's as much detail as is needed, because for most settings, for most of the typical scenarios, the person who is the audience, like a supervisor, the person who is making a decision with these results, doesn't need to know, okay, you used this particular Excel formula. They don't care. They just want to know, what kind of t-test was it? And why did you choose that? Or did you use ANOVA, and why did you choose that? So that you have convinced them you picked the right method. You did the right thing to answer their question. That's all they need to know. The results gives what you found by doing that method. So you might say, I have the p-value of 0.0019. Here are for a t-test, here are the two means. Here are the two standard deviations in question. Maybe you could say, here is the value of the t-statistic. They might find that useful, they might not. This is where knowing your audience is helpful. In the labs, I will be saying what is needed, what is useful. It might be the number of observations. So it might be to say, okay, I looked at 12 places that implemented mandates of masks, or I looked at 293. Well, if you have more, 293, I'm going to have more confidence in the results. So that might be useful information to put into the results section. Regardless, I am just putting in the results. there are two things for the tables. That a table should be organized well enough to be able to pull out the useful information. For most people, that's not a problem, but it is a convention, and a poorly organized table would very much be a trouble spot. The bigger trouble spot comes with only providing what is needed. As we do t-tests in Excel, as we do ANOVA in Excel, Excel will give us quite large and comprehensive tables. They in fact have much more information than is typically needed. Now, if you're doing an in-depth statistical analysis, especially more for scientific publication, and you want to do as much double checking as possible of the results, that's when all of it can be useful. For many situations, though, based upon, again, the audience, a lot of that isn't really needed. Just presenting the pieces of information, as I said, the means, the standard deviations, the number within each group, the overall p-value. That may be all that is really needed in your output. And that means don't just take the output table from Excel and just copy and paste the entire thing into your report. That's overkill. You don't need that much. The audience would not expect that much. They'd probably be kind of annoyed because now they have to go and hunt and find in this giant table, where's what I actually need to know. Only present what they need to know. And within the instructions, you'll get that information. So don't panic on that front. But we will be wanting to pare back, only take from the tables that which is absolutely necessary, instead of the entire table moved over from Excel to your report. That's a frequent trouble spot, and hopefully you will pay attention, take care of that, and in the results section with those tables, not provide commentary. The commentary comes later in the discussion section. We'll see more about discussion sections later. That's where we look at the results. That's where we interpret them and say, okay, based upon this really low p-value, I conclude that mask mandates are useful at reducing the COVID infection rate. That comes after all the results are presented, not intermixed. It makes for a cleaner presentation, especially as we go forward in situations where we might have 2 or 3 or more different methods that we carry out, and then we discuss all of the results of everything at the end. But for here, make sure that the results are just the results, just the facts, and we then make sure our table presents only that which is necessary, as opposed to everything the software gives us. So pay attention to these things when you are writing up your report for the lab that is handed out this week. And as always, if you have questions, feel free to ask, feel free to send an email, and thank you for watching. Have a good one.